Yo, what's up everybody? Joe Dobby here, back at it again with another video for you. It's not going to be a deck profile or unboxing or anything like that. This is more just to give you guys some tips and some, I guess, best practices that a lot of my opponents have told me about and respected me for, because it gives them peace of mind when they face me, in terms of, if they don't know who I am, they don't need to worry about my practices and how I play the game, because it's going to be 100% fair, and I do my best to be as transparent as I can. So I just wanted to share some of the things that I do with you guys, because we're probably going to be in remote play for a while. And if we end up doing a lot of webcam tournaments as these tournaments get bigger, it would be nice to maintain our community of players who are full of integrity. I'm just gonna be very frank, like through legit wins. Okay, so yeah. First things first, obviously, make sure you have the right amount of cards. Count your cards before a tournament. So I have 5 eggs there, and I've got 50 cards in here already. So the first thing actually is I like to ensure that when I'm shuffling, my opponent can clearly see me shuffling on the webcam. I like to ask my opponent how their day was, how the tournament's going, etc. But in addition to that, one of the important things is I like to always be like, can you see everything okay? That's one of the questions it's good to ask, just out of a courtesy. Can you see everything okay? Are you having any issues with my connection? If it's no, then perfect, and you're good to go. But yeah, once you've shuffled, always ask your opponent in a tournament, how would you like me to cut the deck? And then, follow suit. Some people might just say half, right? So if you say half, make sure it's you doing the cut clearly, visibly, and then just setting it into the deck. Now, depending on the opponent, sometimes they prefer to high roll first, or they prepare to set up first. So one thing that I like to do, because I like to set up first, is I just, proactively inform my opponent, look, I think we should set up first before the dice roll. And you got to do your best to make sure that your security is lined up. So I want to say like a quarter of the card shows, of each card shows up until the top one, right? And then when you draw your hand, your starting hand, I like to leave it on the board. So this is why I like to roll the dice in the end, because it allows both of you to set up very clearly that you are ready to go. You can shuffle the eggs if you want. Most people don't really do that anymore. They just say however you want. So you just respectfully, do whatever. And then you do the high roll, right? So got a 5, whatever. If I'm going first, I'm going to end up hatching. A nice thing that you guys can do for your opponent is, if you have an extra die, let them know that you have 5 security or whatever security through your extra dice that you might have. I started picking this habit up and it's been very good. I run purple sleeves and my lighting is like really bright, so you can see each divide in the security. But some of my opponents, sometimes their sleeves are black, the mat is black, and it's like, how much security do you have? So dice always helps, guys, so that's good. So starting off the turn, naturally while you are playing, I like to show both hands on the board. I don't really take it anywhere here. Like I'm not even this close, not over here, not over there, not over here, nowhere in the corners, etc. Always in the center, like up to wrist level. Wrist level to me is like safe, but this is fine too, obviously. Like as long as you can see both your opponent's hands. And when it's off hands, like say I have to grab something, like this hand has to go to my mouse, the whole hand is still, like all my cards are still on the board. They maintain that they're on the board, right? So best practices is one of the main things, so there's no confusion when you hatch, etc. So say I'm just gonna play my turn out here, and then draw. A good way to draw your card over webcam tournaments is to first get the first card, swipe it off the board. Like you can swipe it off the board really quickly. That just shows your opponent, look, I only drew 1 card, right? No issues, we're good to go, etc., etc. So it's just a very nice gesture. Like it's always appreciated. So next thing is inheritables. So let's say I digivolve here. I digivolve into Devimon, and then I draw. And then I digivolve into Myotismon, and then I draw. And then I digivolve into Boltmon, and then I draw. So one of the things I like to do is when I am using my board state, I fan out my hand so my opponent knows how many cards I have in my hand. This is open information. Your opponent can ask you this at any point in the game. How many cards do you have in your hand? How many cards are in your security? How many cards are in your discard pile? And to a degree, how many cards are in your deck? Like, no one's gonna ask like how many cards are left in your deck if your deck's like, if you literally have 10 cards on the board in your hand, that's it. So, but when you're really low, asking how many cards you have left in your deck is a thing, guys. So don't feel kind of like weirded out when that's asked. It's open information. So when I'm using my board state, my hands are fanned out, my hand is fanned out, and when you line up your Digimon, some people like to do this, and it can get very confusing when it's all like spaced out like that, because the more Digimon you put, it starts to get a little bit confusing. Like, this Yamon might belong to this Digimon, like, or to this Digimon over here, and it's like, where did that Yamon belong to? So just to be clear, it's designed for the inheritables to stack over one and the other, and do the courtesy of stacking it clearly so you yourself and your opponent can both identify, that Devimon has retaliation, for example. That's a big thing, right? Like, no one's going to swing over a Digimon with retaliation unless they absolutely have to. So letting your opponent know, like if my opponents are like, I'll swing into Boltmon, I'll be like, just letting you know Devimon has retaliation. Or that's, or you could be like, yeah, it's got retaliation, and then just resolve the game state. So that's pretty much good. I guess the point I want to make here is make sure your inheritables are clear, and if your opponent asks for what inheritables there are, obviously let them know what the inheritables are, and then resolve accordingly. If your opponent willy-nilly swings into your Boltmon and didn't ask for your inheritables first, that's on them. Like, always ask for inheritables, because generally when you resolve an attack, you can't really take it back. So yeah, so pretty much do that. So that's cool. Once again, like, my hand is always like, I do my best to ensure that my hand is fanned out like so, and then let's say I draw for turn, hatch an egg, and then digivolve, and then draw. So the battle area is mainly the top half of the board. I like to consider this top half like where the bottom part of the deck meets. The line at which the bottom of your deck is at and the trash begins. This should be where you're putting most of your Digimon. Up here. This area can be used if you absolutely have to, but if you still have a ton of space here, I highly recommend using the top space first. And the reason why is it can get very blurry, I guess, sometimes if this is your raising area and you have a Sukaimon like right there, for example. Like, some people will like just throw anything anywhere, and then you have like, this was still in raising, or this wasn't in raising. Your opponent's gonna think it was, and do you really want to like win that way? I mean, if whatever floats your boat, fam. But at the end of the day, like, I like to feel good about every single win that I have and know that my opponent had a good time and didn't feel bad when they lose, because they played to their outs. And if there's any reason for my opponent to feel bad, I want it to be on them and not on me, which is why play as clean as you can, kind of thing, and it feels good too. You make friends along the way, so it's great. Yeah, because this section's mainly for tamers, right? So that's one thing. People sometimes like to do the courtesy of fanning out their discard pile until it gets really, really thick. It's also good information for you because you know what's in your discard pile. So that's another thing you can do. When you're resolving security, a really important thing is the dice is there as not only so your opponent knows how much security you have, but also for you. Because if your opponent says swing in a security without the die and you just flip it, oh, trump sword, nice. and you don't wait for them to kind of like pause a bit and confirm that they do want to swing. A lot of people tend to impulsively say swing at your security and then, oh wait, I meant this Digimon. You know, I meant that Digimon, or I'll swing with this instead, like that kind of thing. Technically, until you flip that security, they can change that decision. So like, just to be on the safe side, when someone says I'm gonna attack your security, have your hand on the dice and be like, all right, how many checks? Like, you can ask. Or if it's one check, you can just be like, one check, and they'll be like, yeah, one check, and then you move the die. You can actually turn it to 4 first and then show them the card. That kills an Omnimon, so it makes me feel good. Or if it's 2 checks, you know, do for 2 checks, okay, and then that kind of thing, and then you resolve, right? And then you just put the right amount of like the right number of dice represented on the dice to reflect your security. Once again, guys, do not do things like this. Like, have your hand out on the corner here and then move your hand away, because it's very easy for me to come back and add a card, right? Never, ever, ever. I've seen people do this. Have your hand somewhere dumb, like over here. And then if you're getting a sip of water, you're getting a sip of water over there, and your hand's here. You could easily come back with an extra card, and your opponent would never know. So, please, if there is... don't do that. Don't do that. Like, some people do that, and it kind of troubles me. Especially when, you know, the plays that they pull are very unconventional, and they come out like really like uniquely, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, best practice is make sure that your hand is fanned out. You know, stacking it like this is not bad as well. But you know, it's just easier for everybody. It's easier for everybody to have fun playing the game, and it's better for you. Because if your opponent suspects nothing, then you can win cleanly, you can feel good about your win, and you know that you just straight up outplayed people. And nothing feels better than winning through just being the better player, right? So yeah, play with integrity, have fun, make it fun for your opponents. And I hope that this video will set kind of like precedent for like the bar, or somewhat a bar at which remote play is going to be done, because I really care about the game, I really care about the community, and I want you guys to kind of be your best selves in the tournaments and all that. That way it just feels so much better when you do win, right? That said, thank you so much for watching, and yeah, hot take.